All right, go ahead. Can you hear me, Santa?
Thank
Santa?
you. Can you hear me okay? Hello,
I
can
think
you
I've
hear me
got
okay?
some lack on my. There we go. Hi.
Hello, okay, awesome. Let me know if I need to switch over at all to my phone for audio. I am not the most familiar with WebEx, so there may be some connection issues because I'm just joining in from my browser right now.
No, that's totally
But yeah,
fine.
thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for letting us be here today and giving us a chance to present. I am Senna James, the Community Engagement Director at the Rape Recovery Center, and I'll also give Laura a chance to introduce herself.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Laura. I'm the outreach advocate at the Rape Recovery Center. I will be supporting Senna with this presentation. Thanks all for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Are we good to get started, Brittany, or is there anything else?
No, you're good to get started. Yes, please take it away.
Okay. Awesome. Just wanted to double check before we just get going. Well, yes, as Brittany mentioned, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being with us here today. So to give you a little bit of an overview of what we do at the Rape Recovery Center, our mission really is focused on supporting survivors of sexual violence. We also work to promote prevention within the community and provide community education. And before we really get into a lot of what we're talking about here today, I just want to acknowledge that this really is a sensitive topic. So it's completely natural to feel a range of emotions, whether that's discomfort at any point, sadness, or maybe something else. So really all to say that if at any point you feel like you need to step away, take a moment for yourself, please feel free to do so. It's absolutely okay to do that. Um, in today's session, we aim to provide you with kind of an understanding of sexual violence. We're going to, as Brittany mentioned, address the myths and explore a couple different ways that we can really work together to prevent this sexual violence from appearing in our communities. Okay, next slide. Okay, awesome. So, hopefully you can't hear my barking dog in the background. But we at the Rape Recovery Center, we are a nonprofit based in Sugar House and in Tooele as well. So we're able to provide critical services to both survivors of sexual violence, but also what we call secondary survivors. So those kind of that's a term that refers to those friends and family members of survivors. And some of our services include a 24-hour mobile response team. So, what this team is responsible for is accompanying survivors to something like a forensic examination. This happens within 6 days of a sexual assault. We're also able to provide group and individual therapy by professionals that we have. We have some 2 full-time therapists on staff that offer both individual and group therapy sessions, and some of these are more and they also are all focused on um, and then also advocacy and case management. So the process of if a survivor is choosing to report the case, it can be very confusing. There's a lot to navigate, and so our advocates are also able to help them navigate that system, file all the reports that they're wanting to file. Maybe if they want accompaniment to the police, that can be a vulnerable position to be in as well. Our advocates are able to assist with that. And then also what we're doing here, it's kind of connected to our community education initiatives where we go out and share about the different services that we offer and also educate about the prevalence of this issue in our community, with a goal of working together to debunk these myths and provide support to those who need it in our community. Okay, so that's a little bit of an intro to this question that we like to ask. So, do y'all feel that sexual violence is an issue here in our communities directly? I know that's kind of a hard question to yes, okay, I see a chat answer yes coming through. Awesome. Yeah, I hope just kind of explaining what we do. Yes, another chat answer. Thank you. Um, this kind of goes into our next slide where we like to talk more about how this is specifically affecting our communities. So, as a lot of you have been mentioning in the chat, yes, unfortunately, this is an issue directly in our community. So, let's kind of discuss that together next, a little bit of the scope of sexual violence and how it shows up. So, sometimes we like to assume that maybe this issue isn't directly impacting us. You know, we hear about it, see it maybe in movies, or hear about it more on a broad spectrum. But unfortunately, it is affecting people we know and love here in Utah. 1 in 3 women are expected to experience some form of sexual assault in their lifetime. 1 in 2 trans individuals as well across the US are experienced or face some sort of sexual assault, as well as 1 in 6 men in Utah. So these numbers aren't really, they're not just statistics. These are people directly in our lives that we know and that we care about. So they could be friends, family members, coworkers, or even ourselves. So just why we feel it's important to share some of these statistics. Unfortunately, sexual violence has those ripple effects. So it's not just affecting the person who's maybe gone through that experience, it's also affecting loved ones. And it can affect mental health, relationships, and really our community as a whole. So addressing it together is really important, whether that's sharing some of the education that you see here today, or even just referring to us as a center for resources if someone ends up disclosing to you in the future. Okay, so now let's just take a little bit of a closer look into different forms of sexual violence. So sometimes we think it refers to one thing, but we can provide support in a lot of different ways at our center. And part of allowing the survivor to take their journey into their own hands is helping them understand the different forms of sexual violence too, so that they can better describe their experience. So first, to get started, also, I just, before jumping in, want to say, Laura, feel free to chime in to any of these. But first, to start off with sexual assault, this specifically refers to really any unwanted sexual contact, ranging from any inappropriate touching to indecent exposure. Also, sexual harassment. So, this is more so kind of focused on the behavior. So, it's any sort of deliberate behavior, whether that's verbal, visual, or physical, that is unwelcome. And then there's the term rape, which is defined as that forced sexual intercourse. And last but not least, stalking is also any sort of repeated behavior that causes someone to feel maybe concern for their safety or fear for any reason. And the reason we really like to kind of go over these definitions is to help us as a community also recognize these different types of harmful behaviors. I feel that, you know, the better that we can get them, the better that we can work together to take action and address them as well. Okay, so we also just like to share that everyone really deserves the power to describe their experience in a way that feels the most accurate and comfortable to them. This is really going to look different across each person. And when someone's going through a traumatic experience as well, they may be recalling different parts of this experience at different times. So we don't want to be questioning what they're sharing with us, and kind of the way that they're recalling some of this information, the pieces of maybe the story, as we like to say, kind of coming together. And unfortunately, there are also a ton of myths that surround kind of the theme. through with this presentation.
Is Sana coming out on anybody else's end, or is it just mine?
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's cutting
Am I-
out on our end too.
Yeah, I'm sorry. As soon
Okay.
as we started this slide with the myths, it got pretty choppy on our end.
Oh, so sorry. Okay, I'm going to see
You can
if I can switch over to audio on my
something
phone.
that
if
can
that's okay.
help is if you can turn off your video, and that tends to help. And then if you have like lots of different tabs open, WebEx is a power drainer. So pull that any additional, and then if you turn your video off, that might help as well.
Okay. Let me start with that. Okay, I'll start off with turning video off. Is that making any difference quite yet?
I mean, you haven't cut out yet, so we
Oh.
can start there, and then I can let you know.
Okay. Yes, let's definitely start there, and then I will see if I can maybe switch over to my phone for audio as another resort as well. I'm so sorry for that trouble.
No,
Yeah, I'm with this platform, but it's good to hear that at least the other slides had not cut out at all.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I will start over on this one, just
Okay.
to make sure that the information, I didn't miss anything and relaying any of that information. So thank you for, yeah, please jump in if at any point we need to make any other adjustments or if there's any questions as well. So yes, for rape myths, unfortunately, there are myths of sexual violence that are pretty widespread just around the US and within our community as well. So that's why we like to work together to break down some of these common misconceptions. And so ideally you feel comfortable if you hear any of these in the community, speaking up and letting people know what the reality is. So to start off, one myth is victim blaming. This specifically is connected to the idea that maybe survivors are in some way provoking some sort of attack through their actions, maybe something that they're wearing, some sort of behavior that they're displaying. And this is not true. The responsibility always lies with the perpetrator. And we'll go into a little bit later on kind of what all needs to be present for true consent to be in place. Another myth that we like to go into is about survival responses. So sometimes people assume that maybe if someone isn't fighting back or saying no explicitly, that it isn't considered a sexual assault. But in reality, freezing is completely natural. It's a normal trauma response. And so that's why we like to kind of ensure that people feel comfortable asking for consent and sharing consent before engaging in any activity. There's also the stereotype that men sexual violence. This is false. Sexual violence does affect people of all genders. This was kind of dispelled in the statistics that we went over as well, showing that 1 in 6 men in Utah are expected to go through this experience at some point in their lifetime. And so we want to make sure that we are acknowledging and supporting male survivors of sexual violence as well. And last but not least, there's also a stereotype of what a predator looks like. So sometimes I think media plays a part in this, where we'll watch movies or TV shows where maybe we'll see someone go into a dark alleyway and be in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's kind of the phrase that's used. And run into a stranger, and that's when maybe they'll be attacked. And so this really isn't what we're seeing. A lot of the reports that we see come through that are given to our center are shown that most of the reported cases are actually the perpetrators are known by the survivors. So it's someone that they felt that they maybe thought that they could trust and be alone with. And I guess just before going on to our next section, I just want to mention as like a wrap up for these myths as well, that dispelling these myths just helps us work together to create a culture that really is focused on supporting those survivors and challenging some of these norms that can be harmful for future generations as well. Was there a question? Just wanted to check before moving forward.
I'm not seeing any questions so far. So everyone that's tuning in, please make sure to throw a question in the chat if you do have one. So far, we're good to move on.
Okay, cool. I will go on to our next slide. So do y'all feel, and you can definitely answer kind of like we did with the other one in the chat, do y'all feel that there's anything we can do to prevent violence in our communities? Hopefully we are seeing some yeses. Oh, yes, I see awareness and I see some yeses coming through. Okay, awesome. Yes. So I just like to use that question to kind of jump into our next slide. Yes, a lot of the work that we actually do on our team, the community engagement team, is trying to prevent violence from showing up in the community. So these are the current statistics that we've shared, but ideally we can work together to reduce how much violence is showing up in the community. And we really feel that a lot of that kind of starts with understanding and practicing consent. And so, what we like to do at the Rape Recovery Center and a lot of the workshops that we do in high schools and among the community are using this FRIES model to explain what consent should look like. So, hopefully, some of y'all have seen this before. I think it's a really great way to kind of break down everything that should be present. But to start off, for the F in this FRIES model, F stands for freely given. So this really just means that anything that we're engaging in should be a choice, and this choice should be made without any sort of pressure or coercion in place. Next is R for reversible. So this specifically means that anyone should be able to change their mind at any time. So also just because maybe we agree to something at one point, there shouldn't be an assumption that we're always going to be okay with a certain action or kind of or activity. That's the word that wasn't coming to mind. So it's always helpful to regularly check in because consent is always reversible. Informed and specific, those two I kind of like to put together. So this kind of refers to how all parties involved in any activity should really be fully informed in what they're agreeing to. And agreeing to one thing doesn't necessarily mean that you're agreeing to everything. So as clear as we can be in our communication, the better we can make sure that we're holding those boundaries and also letting people know what our boundaries are. And it can be uncomfortable for sure to have conversations where we're being a little bit more clear about some of these things, but the more we have those conversations, the more we normalize having them, and ideally the more comfortable we feel letting people know what we're comfortable with and asking others what they're comfortable with as well. And then last but definitely not least is enthusiastic. So everyone involved should be actively excited to participate. So this is kind of important in that if someone's feeling coerced or threatened into participating in a certain activity, they may technically say yes, but if they're saying yes without that enthusiasm, or you can see maybe they're a little bit more timid, it's worth kind of checking in and making sure that we can fully be specific and informed in what we're agreeing to. So something also that's important to cover are some exceptions where consent really can't be present. So if someone is under the influence of either drugs or alcohol, or if they're under the age of 14, consent is just not present in any really activity of the sexual sort, or like engaging in any sort of touching, anything like that. And then that by I guess all of this, why we like to share this is if we can kind of understand and be clear and more consistent in consent in all of our relationships, not really just romantic relationships, but in the workplace with our friends, family members, we can ideally build relationships that are better built on these ideals of respect and communication. Okay, so next we do have a video that we like to share. So I don't know the best way. Hopefully I can play it, but let me know if there's any. It's just a short 2 to 3 minute video. But the reason we like to share this is because this can be a great tool if maybe you don't know how to approach this conversation with consent with any of your kids or kids in your life, or just in any setting as well. I think it helps. Oh yes, it was just shared in the chat as well. I think that's the same T. video. So I'll see if I can play it here, but let me know if we have any issues once it gets going.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they go, oh my God, I would love a cup of tea. Thank you. Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea at all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, yes, please. That's kind of you. And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time that it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind. And you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea. And they can't answer the question, do you want tea? Because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea. And they said yes. But in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down. Make sure the unconscious person is safe. And this is the important part again. Don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they're safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it going, but you wanted tea last week. Or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, but you wanted tea last night. But if you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you're able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand it when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea.
Okay, awesome. Hopefully that did not cut out. But we like to just share this resource because consent can be a very difficult topic for sure to address with young ones, and a lot of the work we do is going into high schools across Salt Lake County and Tooele County as well to teach about consent and healthy relationships and boundary setting, and this just kind of simplifies the idea of consent and can hopefully be a good introduction into maybe how to approach this topic with kids. And it can even be as simple as asking, someone before maybe you borrow their pencil at school or something as simple as that. Or if someone's looking on their phone, asking. So we like to hopefully more comfortable asking for every day. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay. Sorry about that. It was just not wanting to load on my end after playing the video. Oh, it went all the way to the end instead. Okay. So next we're going to go into, here we go. Okay. So now we just kind of want to share a little bit about what we recommend doing if a boundary is crossed. This just does tend to happen, unfortunately, as humans. It's kind of inevitable that we are going to create some harm in some place, but working together to understand and reduce how much we can do that can be really helpful. So if a boundary is crossed, what we recommend starting with is directly addressing the issue with that person. If you feel comfortable doing so, this is definitely something where safety comes first. So if your safety in any way is compromised by addressing this issue directly with the person, that's kind of where we like to go into the next recommendation of communicating with a trusted kind of support person that you've identified in your life. So this is something we encourage as well for youth, is to find and young adults as well, but we like to recommend really understanding and identifying who that trust person is, so that you kind of can know who you feel can lean on. And then if you're that trust person for someone else, if you are offering support, we like to kind of give a little bit of guidance there as well. We recommend starting off by listening and validating, really avoiding any judgment where you can. So you may have heard of the term active listening. This is really just helpful so the person can share all the information where they feel comfortable, empowering them to share and open with us. We really don't want, and they should take their healing journey. We like to take more of that approach of providing all the resources that are available to us that we know we can kind of direct the survivor to, and let the experts in those fields really kind of take over in supporting their healing journey where it's helpful. So, for example, you can refer to an expert like us at the Rape Recovery Center. We have resources such as counseling or advocacy that we kind of went over at the start, where we can support that survivor. And then also just holding yourself accountable. So we don't want to overcommit necessarily, make sure that what we're committing to when we're lending support is something that we realistically can do. And this just helps us kind of reduce the harmful behavior and also holding others accountable as well. So just a little bit of an overview of what we can do if we find ourselves in that situation with a boundary being crossed. Okay, so next we'll go a little bit more into how you can support a survivor of sexual violence. If someone's disclosing a sexual assault to you, it can definitely be a very difficult position to be put in. So we don't want you to feel kind of lost with what with what to say. So just a few key steps that hopefully you can take away are, when you're supporting a survivor, validation really can go a long way. And this can be a super simple phrase, just like "I believe you." It can allow the survivor to feel more open and likely to share more as they feel comfortable doing so. Next, the fight or flight response is kind of what we assume will happen in a traumatic experience. So just a reminder that there are a lot of different ways to respond to trauma. So we don't want to be questioning anyone's choices. It's not our place really to question their responses to trauma, but more so be that listening support and resource kind of advocate for them. So that kind of leads into the last but not least. Ideally, you feel comfortable referring the survivor or the secondary survivors. So these are, as a reminder, just the friends and family members that are also affected by a sexual violence experience to experts. And just a few ways to go over that you can do that is you can reach us by phone. So if you would like to call us directly at the Rape Recovery Center, we are open from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And we can even just kind of help talk through maybe a difficult circumstance that someone is going through if someone's not feeling, kind of in a place to set up an appointment. So we do offer appointments where we have kind of more of that intake process, but all of our anyone who's, I guess, answering the phone or any really touch base at the Rape Recovery Center is going to be with a trained 40-hour sexual assault counselor. So at any point, we're kind of available to talk you through something that you're going through and provide that confidential support. And this is really helpful for someone if they don't feel, especially if they don't feel like they're ready to maybe talk through this with someone that they are close with. And then also we have a scheduling option directly on our website. So if someone wants to schedule an appointment to come in and just learn of all the different resources that we have, and also different resources that we can refer to, they can schedule directly on our website. And then education as well. So if you have any, we're very excited to have this opportunity to do a longer kind of series of workshops with you all. And so if there's anything that you find interesting as we're doing these workshops, you could see benefits settings. If you're involved in any other maybe community organizations or groups that would value from having us come out, you can also schedule that directly through our website. So you can fill out a form to either have us come out and table to share some of our printed materials. We have a guide for friends and family that kind of walks through some tips as to how to approach this conversation when someone's disclosing a sexual assault to you, things like that we can provide more in a tabling sense. And then also we can come out in person and virtually to conduct these different workshops. So feel free to go through our website as well to request any of those. And then we also have, for those that are maybe comfortable quite yet, or just kind of want supplemental support in their healing journey, we have some resources that we've worked with our clinical team to build out on our website. So these kind of walk through how to cope in more healthy ways, things like that. And if for those that are maybe not ready to have that conversation and give us a call quite yet. So those are just a few resources that I wanted to cover before kind of giving us time to answer some questions. I know we have a lot of different topics that we've outlined throughout the year identified. So if there's any questions that we can answer for either myself or Laura, I wanted to give time to answer those as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the wonderful information that you've provided to us. This topic is so important, and I think that more need to realize that prevention is possible when it comes to sexual assault, sexual violence in general, and you've outlined that beautifully today. So thank you. Please, if you do have any questions, put that in the chat. I'm not seeing any at the moment. So we can give it a moment while people are thinking about their questions. I do want to make mention of the additional topics that we will have the Rape Recovery Center cover. So if this was a workshop that you found beneficial, which I definitely did, please feel free to join us continually throughout the year. So today we talked about empowerment through knowledge. In February, we're going to talk about consent counts and navigating teen dating and healthy boundaries. February is also Teen Sexual Violence Awareness Month, so we'll be talking about all of those things. March is talking about the power of you, and that's bystander intervention. And then we've got several additional months that we will be covering topics on too. So please go to our website on the workshops tab and sign up for that. We do have a couple of comments that I want to mention. So it looks like we have one that says, I wonder what would happen with consent if both parts are under the influence. Anything to speak towards that?
So just within the state of Utah, legally consent can't be present if both parties are under the influence. Ideally, we are having these conversations more, frequently in that relationship setting where we know kind of someone's comfort levels. But if before we engage in anything, I'd say, but if we are taking the approach of, filing any sort of report, things like that, it's important, I think, to know that consent can't be present if either party or both parties were under the influence of either drugs or alcohol.
Thank you for outlining that. We have another comment that it looks like somebody went ahead and checked out your website, which is wonderful. And they mentioned, I see that there's an upcoming event called Plant Potting and Navigating Relationships Workshop. Can you tell us anything about what that event entails?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for checking out our website already. So just want to start off with that.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about that workshop. It's something new that we're doing this year for one of our campaigns. So February is actually Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So we will have a couple different workshops throughout the month about navigating healthy relationships. And we also will have an art contest actually that's geared towards youth. We have some prizes we can offer as an incentive, but the plant potting workshop is connected to this Teen Violence Awareness Month campaign that we run. So we have a peer advocacy council actually at the Rape Recovery Center that is housed under our prevention program, where a group of kids throughout the school year will get together twice a month to learn about different topics, like different types of abuse, and they have different activities, things like that. And so by the time we get to Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, some of this work we're doing together will be in conjunction with our peer advocacy council. So that's another thing I appreciate the opportunity to share. If anyone has kids that are of high school age, we do have this opportunity for maybe us to start getting them introduced to some of these topics. And what's really cool is when they have the chance to talk with peers, they almost sometimes they digest this information even better, because I think they can better mentally place themselves in scenarios where they can use some of these skill sets we're trying to teach.
Yes. Thank you. Along with your mention of peer advocacy council, but also talking about consent, we have our employee wellness podcast, our Wellcast, that we had our wonderful guests here today record with us, and we will be publishing that soon. But we're talking all about consent culture and how that starts in the family and approaching consent conversations and all things like that. So be tuned and keep your eyes out for that podcast recording coming up. We have an additional comment that says, awesome information. Thanks for the stats and the resources. We can schedule you for our team to come out to youth services. So it looks like you're going to be hearing from not only us, but a couple of different agencies within Salt Lake County. So thank you again so very much for your information. Do you have any last thoughts you'd like to share, or any last questions from the group? Oh, I have one question. I had somebody direct message me asking if counseling sessions are offered in Spanish.
Oh, yes. Thank you. That is a great question. So all of the services that we have we're able to offer in both English and Spanish. And we do try to bring in support where we can if there's any additional translation needs. And that's both for, someone coming in for an appointment, or even if we were to come out and do a workshop, where we're able to also have a translator come in if we feel that there's a community that could benefit from these resources that we're not effectively reaching in either English or Spanish. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. And a lot of the resources we have available on our website are also I think they should all be actually available in both English and Spanish. So the reading for maybe working through some of these difficult that should be available for anybody in both English and Spanish.
Fantastic. Well, I just want to join in our group and the comments that are coming in that are saying thank you so much. We really, really appreciate your time, education that you provided, and your expertise on the topic. I'm really looking forward to all of these additional workshops that we will be having on this topic, and allowing for an open conversation to be had, and that this is a safe place for us to discuss things like this, and bring more prevention and awareness into our community and also our workplace. So again, thank you so much. Wonderful presentation. If we have any additional questions, I can stay on for a few more moments. Other than that, we will give you your day back. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you. Yes, and I will be sure to, I think, try to download WebEx and see if that helps for next as well.